I'm in my pyjamas. Don't get too scared. Um, Sometimes when I do these little chats, I've thought long and hard about what I'm going to say because we've watched it at like 9 o'clock and I've walked around the house and it's all been good. And sometimes I don't, and this is one of them. This is a 3 episode catch up jobby because I'm naughty and I've been missing my opportunities to talk about the stories, but nobody watches them anyway, so what does it matter? But the Sensorites is absolutely brilliant. After all my banging on about the Aztecs saying it was the best Hartnell story, it's entirely possible that this is better, which is a brilliant surprise. I've made sure I've done a video for this one because episode 4, which is called A Race Against Death and not A Rage Against Death, which is what we thought it was called, but that would have been as good a title. That wouldn't have made any sense. Has a particular point that needs warranted discussion. But just to say, if you compare this outer space story with our last outer space story, The Keys and Mariners, just how classy this is in comparison is remarkable. If you'll remember, Keys and Mariners with short vignettes, completely black and white, no depth, no exploration of this cultures and things like that. It was all just straight ideas and then just something that spins out from those ideas. This, you've got a race of aliens who have a different culture. There are different opinions within that culture, so you don't get that standard sort of alien fare where everybody believes the same thing and they're all doing this and the other. You've got divisions within them. You've got the ramifications of the differences between them and us, so the way that they have developed, you can attribute certain aspects of their physiognomy and mental capacity and all that kind of thing. And it's absolutely class. The story's rolling on nicely. Barbara's taken a 2-week break, which you would worry about were it not for the fact that everybody else ups their game. It's given Hartnell space to breathe, of which more in a minute. Susan's actually had something to do, which is marvellous. Ian's as reliable ever. John and Carol, and I think his name's Meekin, although I know with somebody called Meekin, so it could mix him up. But our humans are really good, and John, it's heartbreaking. You know, his mind's been broken quite accidentally by the impact of the Sensorites. I'm taken aback by how much I've enjoyed it, and how much I'm enjoying it, I should say, and how sophisticated it seems for something. When you talk about early Doctor Who, you do. I mean, we have had the odd wobbly set. There's a particular door that refused to close, or no, it's actually a wall that refused to close. But just the way that this era of Doctor Who has got a bit more time and space to breathe. The way that characters are allowed to grow. As I say, the way that the Sensorites are a seemingly fully developed culture from which all these exciting things can spring from. It's a real joy to watch, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's absolutely ruddy marvellous. Furthermore, it has been oft said, Miles and Wood, in the About Time series of books and people further than that, have said that Race Against Death is when Hartnell's Doctor finally becomes the Doctor. And the reason, the specific thing they mention is the fact that at the end of that episode, theoretically, he could just get the lock to the TARDIS, which is what his motivation has been. For helping out the Sensorites and clear off, which forever the story is basically what he's been doing, hasn't it? He gets isolated from the TARDIS, so there's a problem, so he has to do something to get the TARDIS back. Well, in this, he decides no, he's going to go one further, and he actually goes and finds out the source of the poisoning, which is what the problem has been. And they have stated, and they're right, that this is the Doctor demonstrating the curiosity that will become a defining feature of his character, irrespective of which Doctor it is. The Doctor is curious about the universe and goes off to explore. Now, they're right. They're undoubtedly right. But I think Episode 4 has some vintage, perhaps thus far, the most quintessentially Doctorish moments from Hartnell. First of all, his compassion towards Ian is really nicely played and a joy to see. In the previous episode, he had a bit of a Barney, because we watched 2 episodes tonight. He had a bit of a Barney with Susan, which felt jarring, but stepping off from that, seeing the way he's acted with Ian, who's become sick, was really he has a real gentleness to him and a real care. You know, it's the Doctor caring about his companions. This is another defining feature of the Doctor. The conversation he has with Carol about John, and he just says, "I think you're going to have a happy future together," or something like that. It's occasionally the Doctor does that, doesn't he? He drops in things as if prophesying, prophesizing, irrespective. Just that sort of sense of wisdom there. And there was another moment where he goes down to the aqueduct with the Sensorite, and Sensorite, there's monsters there, and Hartnell looks at him from behind a pipe, walks round the pipe, and says, "What do you mean?" Felt so doctory. And I think part of that is the fact that Barbara's not in it. Hartnell's kind of got a bit of room and space. And of course, Ian's sick throughout most of that story. The Sensorites, I think the Sensorites are class, right? I can see how one would interpret their prosthetics, if indeed you did call them prosthetics in those days, as being a bit shoddy. But it's black and white telly. You kind of go with it to a certain extent, and I believe it. I believe it enough to think, yes, they could be related to the Ood. Yes, I do believe in their culture, and I just love it. I'm absolutely loving it. Season 1 of Doctor Who, who'd have thunk it? Like, seriously, aside from the Daleks, I've not, and the obvious difficulties of watching Marco Polo, which we've talked about before, I'm absolutely adoring Season 1 of Doctor Who. And I've watched a lot of these stories individually before, all of them by the Reign of Terror, and Marco Polo, and I thought, yeah, they're good, but this process, it's no real surprise that once it's found its feet, this programme runs and runs. Absolute class. Absolute class. And we've got 2 more episodes of The Sensorites, which I know is going to be interesting. And then we've got Reign of Terror, which obviously I'm looking forward to. So anyway, for this little moment, let me just say The Sensorites is a proper, grown-up, sophisticated story of the type that I think somebody with a level of ignorance about early Doctor Who wouldn't think exists. We're talking about proper drama, we're talking about proper characterisation, we're talking about conflict and nice dialogue. I mean, it's just good. It's really good. And I'm in pyjamas. Night night.